3 years ago, I made the catastrophic decision to try and beat Terraria using all the traps, and it was a blast. I had so much fun that the very next year I decided to up the ante and give it a go in Master Mode. I, to this day, cannot fathom what could have possibly convinced me to do that. Don't look at that. This time, of course, was not a blast, but it was done, and I was happy. For a little while. But as time passed, I realized that maybe Master Mode wasn't the limit. That maybe this stupid idea could be pushed to the limit of not only the tools themselves, but of the game itself. So here I am yet again to answer once and for all if everything Terraria has to offer can be beaten using only boulders. And to answer the seemingly simple question of whether or not I have what it takes. Right into the world I jump, completely unprepared for the raw misery headed my way. And as if the loading screen wasn't bad omen enough, the game gives me a pretty clear hint on what this challenge will be like by spawning me in hell. Unsure where to even begin, I cut down a few trees to construct some sort of shelter from the unrelenting horde of lava slimes. From there, I work up the courage to brave the ever-looming world above. And even just getting into a cave is painful, for all parties involved, apparently. But alive, if not a bit hungry, I breach into the caves, terrified. I have 0 boulders in my possession, obviously, so no way to defend myself from literally anything. And it's only now just hitting me that there isn't a block of stone in sight. Great, looks like boulders will have to wait a minute. Fully overwhelmed, less than 15 minutes in, I make one misstep, and there it is, the very first death. I truly wouldn't have wanted it any other way. I respawn and hop right back to spelunking, really only looking for stone. Everything else is just a bonus. And while I struggle to survive even the most basic encounters on my search, let's lay out the ground rules of this whole thing. 1. If it somehow wasn't obvious, I am only allowed to deal damage using boulders, including, but also limited to, the classic, the bouncy, and the spiny. That's it. Everything from a lowly slime, which is already struggle enough it seems, up to the Moonlord himself is only allowed to take damage from boulders. I know it sounds completely impossible, but I assure you, it hopefully isn't. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. I haven't even mentioned this awesome umbrella I got. 2. Accidents happen, deal with it. Without using mods, there's just no way to avoid accidental damage from things like pickaxes. And I mean, come on, is this not enough suffering to make up for a few dead squirrels? 3. I have to kill every single mainline boss, including both evil bosses since, you know, GetFixedBoi. Mini bosses and events, however, can suck it. Pretty much all the later ones are physically impossible anyways, so there's really no point in wasting my time on all the others. 4. I'm giving myself exactly 3 of what I like to call teleporter tokens, basically meaning that I can use teleporters or the Rod of Discord on 3 bosses. And don't worry, I'm gonna try and keep the teleporter usage interesting rather than fun-breaking. 5. And these aren't actually rules, but if you're wondering why I'm only using boulders this time, it's because, quite frankly, all the other traps would do absolutely nothing to any of these bosses. Sorry, not sorry. Also, if you've never played Legendary Mode or GetFixedBoi, don't worry, neither have I. So just enjoy the suffering from the comfort of your classic difficulty world. Coward. And if you have played it, I am so sorry. Finally, after over an hour of searching aimlessly and earning a fair few deaths along the way, I am blessed to, at last, get my bloodstained hands on some stone. 1 objective down, only a million more to go. I starve my way into a quick return, and just like that, 26 beautiful boulders. Putting them straight to work, I managed to take out a few bothersome ghosts and actually live to tell the tale. Barely, but for the first weapon of the challenge, I consider that a major win. Speaking of, what actually is the next weapon progression-wise? Well, shoot. It would appear as though the weapon that warranted such a celebration upon killing 2 ghosts is the exact same tool I plan on besting the rest of the game with. Lovely. Immensely humbled by that realization, I throw together a luxurious winter cabin for the merchant, allowing me to buy marshmallows from him, then spend a full 6 minutes just standing over a campfire, because for some reason it takes like 20 seconds per marshmallow. Why? Having a constant food source means I can now take on longer expeditions, and having an actually terrible, am I right, weapon means survival is somewhat on the table now. So I claw my way through cave after cave, death after death, chest after chest, until finally I achieve my goal and kill that rat bastard Tim. Oh, and also reach full health, upgrade to platinum, craft a grappling hook, and get murdered by the Eye of Cthulhu mere seconds away from killing both a mimic and a golden slime. Needless to say, death number 30 was a rough one, though the game mercifully gives me a second chance, and there goes all the money. My life continues to follow this generally horrific pattern for quite a while, so enjoy a few of my favorite moments in the meantime. Whoa! Yes? No? Why? Why? Whoa. Are you kidding me? Fully kitted out, it's finally time to take on a boss, purposefully this time. Next up, at least according to my hit list, should be Skeletron. I know Skeletron is an odd choice of first boss, but oh, the dungeon. But there is not a chance in hell, or anywhere else for that matter, I'm gonna be taking on the Eye of Cthulhu or King Slime manually. Sure, I probably could, but they don't drop anything I actually need anyways, so skipping straight to Bonesy himself makes more sense, as he holds behind him the single reason this challenge has even a chance at being possible, no matter how slim the chance may be. I'll talk about that a bit more later, because for right now, I'm gonna absolutely these devourers if they don't, and just Hatsune Miku, Dad. It took me 4 hours to find the stupid dungeon entrance, and all I have to show for it is a single dead worm. Great job, me. I set up a quick spawn point, which immediately turns against me, and upon realizing where the old man hangs out compared to where the entrance is, I just completely give up on taking down Skeletron. The dungeon's layout fully ruins the plan I had in mind, so I decide to switch to fighting the Eater first. Yeah, I know, who's the coward now? But this will work out better in the long run anyways. Plus, I for some reason have an immense desire to kill worm-like enemies right now. How odd. The plan here is simple, and is actually the exact same thing I did in my Master Mode Traps Only playthrough. Mine out a large area in the Corruption, add in a place to drop boulders from, and get absolutely slaughtered before I can deal even a single hit of damage. Okay, well that last one only happened here, as I, impressively so, managed to completely forget what world I'm playing in. A fact I refuse to properly account for the next 3 attempts. Attempt 4, I actually deal a few hits of damage, and pretty solid damage at that. All thanks to boulders having infinite pierce, just demolishing as many sections of the Eater as are in their way. But oh baby, am I not done yet. We're going into attempt number 5, I've got a massive trick up my sleeve. An ooey gooey bouncy trick. I farm up the necessary rotten chunks, expand the arena one last time, and carnage. Unbridled, absolute carnage. My supply soon runs unbouncy, but the damage has already been done. In record time, fight-wise, not overall-wise, the Eater of Worlds has been defeated. I collect my well-earned booty, forge the nightmare pickaxe I was after, and most important of all, buy a crap ton of pumpkin seeds from the Dryad. You have no idea how much time I wasted cooking stupid marshmallows, man. Being able to just craft my food from now on feels euphoric. Skeletron is one of the very few bosses I actually researched ahead of time because of just how vital this fight is. And what I gain from it is that I am nowhere near ready. Now, there's unfortunately not much I can do aside from building the arena to prepare other than getting Hellstone, which sits peacefully in the monster-infested, lava-filled hellscape known as Hell. And I mean, come on, even just getting to the Farlands feels like it takes 14 years. An obsidian skin potion keeps me alive long enough to collect a few hundred ore and make me forget that I need to drink another. A quick detour back earns me a Hellforge, and voila! The best pre-hard mode armor is mine. before having fought the Eye of Cthulhu. Another thing I can do before setting up the Skelly Arena is solving the constant boulder shortage by using the Merchant in the Jungle, a couple hundred furnaces, and the world's most annoying shimmer to find. Well, John, it did indeed seem rather frustrating to locate, though in my professional opinion, this man does appear to be a monumentally sized jackass, so who can really say? Next up, the same exact boy child tries and fails to accomplish a basic task without making a further fool of himself. Putting my brilliance on full display, I toss the 9,999 furnaces I bought into the shimmer, and in return, 200,000 stone is now mine. I swear on my life, nothing else happened. I 100% did not lose 120,000 of that stone because my inventory is full and it all turned into dirt. That's edited. It's not at all what happened in real life. I spend one of my 20 stacks of stone crafting 1,666 boulders, throw together a tiny goblin killing machine, as in the machine is tiny, not the goblins, just to be clear, then summon the said regularly sized goblin army. It goes infinitely better than I could have possibly hoped for, and I'm not being facetious here. This single event is the happiest 15 minutes of the entire challenge, as I don't die nor so much as take damage the entire affair. Boulder spam does numbers when all your opponents just line up and let you bulldoze him, apparently. I dope around for a while, waiting for the goblin to move in. Remember that that's not at all how that works. Spend a few minutes finding the poor fellow, then using his workbench, upgrade it to Frostspark boots, meaning it's at last time to return to the dungeon and get straight to mining, despite having no clear plan aside from a few vague ideas. It takes a while to get done, but finally, I curse the old man and the battle begins. Despite forgetting to use my newly gathered life crystals, the fight is a breeze. All I have to do is whack a boulder whenever Skeletron's head looks hittable. It doesn't take long until Skeletron is successfully defeated using traps alone. Oh, easy money, man! Alrighty then, so clearly it didn't work out quite as well this time. Not even close, some might argue, as after 8 test fights, I've only gotten bad news. No super strat, no cheeky bit of cheese, just the fact that Skeletron can apparently keep up with me no matter how fast I am. Knockback is the bane of my existence, literally everything hurts bad, and that I am so unbelievably boned here. Completely shifting away from the previous tests, I full send mining out an immensely deep pit near the dungeon's entrance, which I aptly name Skeletron's Hole. I bring its namesake over, and into it I dive. And all of a sudden, there I am, starstruck, staring at the screen in wonder as I slowly realize I've done it. I've actually managed to have a good idea. Skeletron can't seem to keep up with me while I'm in freefall, essentially crossing off 3 of my biggest concerns in one foul swoop. I extend the arena both down, then up to the surface and beyond, reaching the pinnacle of this accursed realm I've been forced to call my home. Starting near the dungeon, I begin the 4-minute process of filling the entire tower with 358 hand-placed boulders. I mine out a second tunnel for safety reasons, then give the system a test drive. And the world shook. Hundreds of boulders raining down from on high, crashing their way uninterrupted through the mighty skull's health bar, until just as quickly as it began, it's over. First the boulders run out, then I hit the bottom and am killed. The very plan that gave me my first glimmer of hope now spat in my face, told me they never actually loved me, and blocked me on all platforms with no further explanation. On the surface, it might seem like that was a promising attempt, but as I try again and again, the problem I realized that first try becomes ever more apparent. I simply do not deal enough damage. My 350 boulders tend to deal around 5,000 to 6,000 damage, while Professor Boner over here is packing a massive 15,000. Oh, Oh, but Quinn, just add more boulders, I hear you say. Where? The sky is literally the limit here, and I have reached it. Now, I did see this issue coming, so implement the double back system in hopes of being able to grav potion my way back up in order to drop down a second tower, and so on. It takes me a couple of tries to get through the double back part alive, but even then, Skeletron just gains infinite speed, putting the idea fully into its coffin. I pull the classic stare at the map and hope brilliance gets beamed into my head strat, but only gets static in return. So screw it, I'm going back to the good old-fashioned run really fast plan I used last time. After all, if it's not busted, then then don't change it. I just make one slight adjustment to using a minecart, which should give me enough space to outpace Skeletron and his inappropriately touchy grippers. One embarrassing mishap later, yet another chance at success is dashed. Looks like nothing short of falling is able to outpace the bastard, and there's no way I'm gonna be able to last round hands like those. It's just not happening, leaving, in my mind at least, not but a single recourse. The hands have got to go. This is my very final option. If this doesn't work, I genuinely don't know. It takes mining out more tunnels, taking extensive bathroom breaks, crafting many a door, I mean like hundreds of doors, and 757 boulders to get it done, but it is. Here goes everything. I use my mirror in an attempt to escape Skeletron long enough to arrive safely at his hole, but take pretty heavy damage anyways. Once there, by placing a lava bucket, I can release both boulder pillars at basically the same time, instead of having to try and hit both of them while getting tossed around by knockback. Now in freefall, the towers absolutely shred Skelly's hands, soon leaving the talking head to fend for himself, along with the occasional caster, but at these speeds, they almost never get a chance to intervene. And just like that, I hit rock bottom, unleash the final stack, and I forgot to remove some placeholder blocks. Yet, unlike last time, this attempt only inspires me to try again. The actual trap worked flawlessly. The only reason it ended like it did is user error. Going straight into another attempt, the hole once again disintegrates, and this time, so does the horizontal tunnel as well. To a much lesser degree, since it only hits when the SK isn't doing boulder RP, sure, but I will take it. Now, if only it was a touch longer. I try to pull an epic gamer moment, yet it would seem as though another shot is in order. With a backup plan properly implemented now, I feel infinitely more confident in everything going smoothly. The fight in complete shambles, I'm forced to play way more precise than intended, even going as far as removing my speed buff in an attempt to better match my now single ally's pace, who is honestly kinda crushing it right now. Holy! I meet the far wall, drop my final hope, and run. Run like there isn't a single thing in this entire world that could stop me. Because in this moment, in this exact moment in time, nothing possibly could. So after over 30 hours of work, 228 total deaths, just so many bad ideas, and maybe like one good one, the mighty Skeletron has been defeated. And everything is about to change. A brand new era is dawning that the creatures of this land simply aren't ready for. So begins the age of wire. Zero time to spare, I practically dive headfirst into the dungeon. And okay then, that was easy. I untie the mechanic and am out of there. Who gives a damn about alchemy tables when wire is out there waiting for me? And there it is. It's even more beautiful than I remembered. I buy the entire lot, sell everything I own remotely valuable, and spend even more. Golly, do I just love capitalism. I craft the grand design, not making that mistake again, create a temporary graveyard biome, and craft boulder statues, the ultimate tool of destruction. A lesser man might get their best weapon post-Moonlord, but not this guy. I can get mine pre-boss as Red intended. But bosses don't kill themselves, so sorry Eok, but you're screwed, buddy. The trap is super simple to set up, considering what later bosses are gonna require, and I make sure it's completely overkill to maximize the badassery. For the uninitiated into boulder culture, the basic system I'll probably implementing from now on is as such. Usually a line of either rollers or droppers, each connected up to a one or multiple quarter-second timers. Each statue can only drop a boulder every 15 seconds, and said boulder will always roll in the same direction based on the statue's placement. And now you know. Thankfully for the eye, nothing too fancy is needed, yet the sheer power of the boulders completely ruins them. It just doesn't stand a chance here. The bloodshed reignites the fire in me, as in but a few lowly seconds, the Eye of Cthulhu, the beast that has been terrorizing me my every waking moment, has been defeated. Bloodlust. Pure, unadulterated bloodlust is all I feel. So I do it again, and again, and again, and again. The ease at which I now extinguish life is exhilarating after being the extinguished for so long. 8 eyes now dead, I equip a dash, finally, and move on to the King Slime. Great Scott, this boy is thick. And the fight is actually very precarious and awkward with how he moves around, keeping me on my toes, unlike the eye. Now, it's certainly not enough to tip the scales, and so the King Slime has been defeated. With no other bosses suitable for it, I tear the OSHA violation down, only to rebuild a nearly identical trap in the Crimson Cavern. Thank you, GetFixedBoi, for making me fight both evil bosses. Really appreciate it. I break the first Crimson Heart, then what I thought was the second. Remembering how to count this time, the brain of Cthulhu has awoken, and the damage got me spinning head over heels here, people. The creepers immediately die, flipping the gravity for some reason, I guess, followed by my confidence nearly getting me killed. But just like in the classic game Brain Boulder Player, boulders beat everything every time. It's kind of a terrible game, really, though immensely accurate to real life, as the brain of Cthulhu has been defeated. A bit of a close call there, eh? Next up, boss-wise, at least according to my list, should be the Queen Bee and Deerclops. So that's what I did, right, team? No? Okay, then when did I fight them? Why? In the meantime, thanks to my horrible memory, the wall is the only thing standing left between me and hard mode. Asterisk, asterisk. Not only do I now need to build an actual trap for it, but I also want to live in a proper base. A base ideally not located in hell, though in this world, it's debatable whether such a location actually exists. We take what we can get, and a measly 4 hours later, introducing BHQ. Complete with urban pumpkin farms, a fishing spot, plenty of room for NPCs, and most importantly of all, a magnificent, color-sorted storage system. Do you like it? Oh, that better be getting cut. Now, there are still a ton of random side quests to do before letting hard mode crush my soul into pieces, so it's time for some good old-fashioned rapid-fire exposition dumping. Jungle pylon, lots of death, tundra, desert, underground pylons, plenty more deaths, dirtiest block, monster farm excavations, and hold on a second, did I just say dirtiest block? Wow, yeah, okay. Well, just mining up to the future monster farming area, there it is, just the rarest item in the game. Sure, why not? It's at last time to get the ball rolling, literally, as construction on the Wall of Flesh trap can now get underway, where despite it being the final pre-hard mode boss, asterisk, asterisk, I really don't expect it to be that hard, as in both of my previous traps only playthroughs, I used nearly an identical strategy, a couple rows of boulder statues, and very, very long hallways. Even in normal mode, I had pretty much completely given up on all the other traps already. They simply can't hold a candle against boulders, hence why I decided to limit this playthrough more so than before. That said, I fully plan on copying my past brilliance nearly 1-to-1 here. Never fix what's when you don't know what's not broken. Damn it. While the idea itself is super simple, implementing it takes freaking forever. It kills me how frustrating it is trying to flatten the hills of ash. Literally, it kills me several times. I stopped the flattening at the old base to get started on the boulder platforms. This too takes a millennia. But after that, a bit of wiring, then rewiring, I relapse. I'm addicted to doors. Ever since the Skeletron fight, I haven't been able to stop thinking about them. I used a couple hundred doors back then to keep me safe from projectiles, and that seemingly inconsequential act has opened up worlds of possibilities in my mind. A doorway to simplicity, to serene survivability, to knob-shaped glory. Again, using the beautiful items, I line my hallway with them to prevent getting lasered to oblivion, then toss one of my many voodoo dolls into the lava, hoping to figure out what makes Legendary Mode WAF different and get a grasp on the current trap's weaknesses. But don't you dare go saying it's the doors, cause it's not, okay? Instead, I note down 2 major issues. 1, the damage is pretty much terrible, which has never been an issue before and actually has me kinda concerned as it's normally really good in these challenges. The second issue is imps. I'm a major problem, immeasurably micro penis, infuriating little bastards. Hope that was a good take. I don't really have another stick. Just look at this absolute bull. The speed and damage their fireballs possess is unbelievable. Though one of them does drop an obsidian rose, letting me cobble together a pair of Terra Spark boots, so maybe I shouldn't be complaining so much. Nevertheless, I had seen beforehand that imps pose a serious threat during this fight and went well out of my way to try and resolve it. The idea, not mine by the way, was to get a bunch of free imp banners from their statues and use them during the duel to debuff their damage. An immensely cathartic experience, but as I soon find out, also completely useless. Boulders apparently not only don't fill out the bestiary, but also can't cause banners to drop. This realization takes a few hundred dead imps to get through to me, and means I now have to come up with my own unplagiarized solution. I'll give you one guess to figure out what single item resolves all of my problems. Doors. Obviously doors. They're incredible. By placing hundreds upon hundreds of the beautiful things a single block apart, the only places imps can spawn are inside the meat grinder. That change, another layer, and a couple of wiring optimizations to improve boulder timing means I can summon the wall once again. The doors, to nobody's surprise I hope, work a right treat, while the damage unfortunately still falls quite flat. We reach the end of the tunnels and it's over. No big deal, the failure merely gives me the opportunity to spend the next 45 minutes expanding the trap's reach. Alas, the length still proves to be inadequate. An unfamiliar feeling for me, but with how high the wall was tending to hang out, it's not surprising the damage is terrible. The reason for having so many layers is that it's supposed to be hitting all 3 pieces of the wall at once. It's definitely not doing that here, and I don't really have any idea on how to fix that, while still being immensely lazy. So I'm just gonna not even worry about it. Instead, random boulders go. And even more rewiring, but that's stupid nerd crap, so who even cares? I brutally mutilate the guide yet again and barely hold on for dear life, though it's undeniable that the damage definitely is better. Only one eye is getting hit still, but the improved spacing between boulders is massively increasing DPS, killing imps faster and more reliably taking down leeches. The fight definitely picks up ferocity with every step I take, but whether I'm ready for it or not, hard mode finds me sitting on top of the world as the wall of flesh has been defeated, using nothing but boulders. It doesn't feel real given the challenges I've had to overcome, but I break as many demon altars as I can before getting my ass handed to me, for what I'm sure won't be anywhere near the last time. Working my way up to titanium takes ages with how screwed up the world gen is, but even after getting enough, I'm forced to shimmer it into adamantite, thanks to titanium's questionably legal set bonus. I also use my pre-made monster farm to snag myself a philosopher's stone before being rudely reminded what playing in legendary mode entails. Gone forever are the comfortably predictable days of fighting the twins, the Destroyer, and Skeletron Prime individually. Instead, I'm forced to butt heads with the undoubtedly monstrous, undeniably horrific, unbelievably big-titted beast, Medusa. Now, I've never fought nor seen anybody fight Medusa, and by Jove, do I want to keep it that way for now. I am not ready for that yet. Opting instead to breach the surface of this world in search of some souls of flight. And to sum up this experience, a haiku. Ugh, this is painful. I should write a haiku. Wait, no, that's like super stupid. Why would I ever do that? From first poking my head above the ground to finally getting the souls I need takes 80 minutes. Everything kills me, I'm full of awful ideas, and no wyverns spawn. I use my hard-earned souls along with 99 pixie dust I farmed up to craft a pair of, no wait, the goblins are invading now. And holy hell are they brutal. There's not a thing I can do against the warlocks aside from just wait for the pain to end. Their insanely deep pool of health and cringeworthy projectile spam pretty much guarantees 90% of my time is spent looking at the "you died" screen. It's completely believable how long this took, but wings. Yay, now I can fight Medusa somehow. Like really, I have no idea where to even begin with this thing, so just start mining out a massive area in the underworld. Then there's the problem of crafting its summon. I am scarily low on lenses, have very few rotten chunks, and have to build a micro dungeon farm near BHQ just to get a few bones, which I use to construct Akram's Razor, meaning it's time to peep the horror and hopefully figure out, like, anything. I'll literally take anything at this point. And indeed, here's what I find along with what I do to solve it. The number one standout for me is the Destroy Your Body, which essentially creates a massive barrier in my way of turning around. Thankfully, this is also the easiest of the problems to resolve. Remember this? Now multiply the amount of boulders by a couple hundred, swap out for the Destroyer, and I think you get the idea. I'm hoping Royer should be taken out pretty quick here, but to survive up to that point, it's time to break out my first of 3 teleporter tokens. I could use them to completely avoid everything in the fight, but that's stupid and unbased, so I'm gonna try and keep my teleporter usage as unintrusive as possible, implementing them here at the outer edges of my tunnel. Whenever I'm being cornered, I simply stand on the pressure plate and continue on in the other direction. Both strategies in conjunction should turn the fight into a 1v7 rather than a 1v500, where now my main concern is most likely to be Skeletron's arms and the twins' projectiles. And look, I've already got a massive death trap directly beneath me, so the second Desti is gone, I drop down to blow the trap, putting every threat directly in harm's way. And after adding in a couple of doors, the projectiles also no longer pose any issues. I'm trying to tell y'all, doors are OP. With that, everything I picked up on during our brief encounter has been solved for. I generally don't think I'm very good at this game, so figuring out a way to outsmart rather than outdodge bosses is always my favorite part of these challenges. That said, I resummon the breast beast and soon arrive at the first teleport. And while I do make it around the Destroyer, I definitely need to space them out a bit more. Aside from that, the damage looks like it should be really good. I have no way of actually knowing. And the horde of probes is easily solved by having a few boulders above me, so I jump straight back into attempt number 2, solidifying my genius as in a record 24 seconds, the Destroyer becomes the destroyed. And maybe let's just pretend the rest of the fight didn't even happen, as it directly disproves the whole genius thing I was going for. I truly cannot fathom why I only put teleporters on the bottom section. Why would I not just do that everywhere? Great. Thanks, game. Way to hit a guy while he's down. At least until I noticed that the Destroyer dropped his own treasure bag. I don't know why I wasn't expecting that to be the way it works, but this could be a massive boon, assuming I don't pull off the victory next attempt. I wait out the solar eclipse and remember that evil biome spreading is a thing now, so take a quick detour to get it under control. First it's the Hallow, then it's the Corruption, and then it's me giving up because genuinely, from the very bottom of my heart, screw this. The Contaminator simply doesn't exist in GetFixedBoi, a fact I was not privy to, and the entire reason I waited to isolate all of the biomes until now. That would have been nice to know before letting the entire world get out of control. Not to mention, whenever I'm not in a pre-built area, this is my only offensive option. A bat spawns, guess what? I can either leave or it's just gonna be there now, permanently. The death timer has started, and it's like that for 90% of the enemies. I think I'm starting to lose it here, folks. Snapping back to focus mode, I add in the quite frankly overpowered heart statues, kill the Destroyer once again for bars, forge myself a shiny new set of hallowed armor, and finally upgrade the arena to have bottom level teleporters and asphalt flooring. Clearly a waste of time as I just keep on teleporting way too early, ending my next 3 attempts with a loss, forcing me to farm for lenses. Lenses, people. Things are so bad right now. I'm farming for lenses, and I'm failing at it too, thanks to the damn pirates. So at least the Destroyer is easy by now, unlike the other two who... No, wait, I think think something's happening. When the twins are in their projectile spam attacks, I'm entirely safe. My only concerns are their physical moves, yet for the very first time, the twins are moved to madness, and with Skeletron's hands well below their normal count, the fight should be completely free. Though as you surely foresee, I flush it, my man. I just flush all of my hard work straight down the drain. I know I can do it now, but losing like this over and over to Medusa is starting to make me doubt. Doubt whether this challenge will even be possible. Doubt that I have the patience to march forward even when things get worse. Doubt that I have what it takes. And yet, despite my reluctance, I keep pressing forwards, knowing that in all honesty, I might never complete this challenge, never finish what I started nearly 3 years ago. But if I fail, it's not gonna be because I gave up. The Medusa arrives, and I give it my all, quickly neutralizing the destroyer, then dropping down to where the real battle can begin. I have to be nearly perfect now when every hit does so much damage. A few tiny mistakes in a row, and I wouldn't be alive to see Spaz, then Rhett go Insanio style. So I push everything except for the right now out of my mind. The twins fall into oblivion within seconds of each other, leaving only the SP blocking my path forward. If only he stood a chance. For the second time this playthrough, Skeletron simply can't seem to keep up. So at long last, the mechanical monstrosity Medusa has been defeated. And the jungle grows restless, having heard the deafening tones of rock and iron echo through their vine-riddled halls, fearing that she, like all the other once mighty champions of this world, simply cannot endure. I smith the mighty pickaxe axe, the only usable thing I got from fighting Medusa, and begin the hunt for the golden fruit of life. Wow, do I hate this place. Though being at full health is incredible. I mean, now I can actually survive taking a hit. With Plantera up next, I start the process of lying down the arena's general shape, which involves a massive tunnel all the way from Skeletron's long-abandoned hole clear over to the jungle. A project of this size naturally takes ages to mine out, giving me plenty of time to remember the still undefeated Queen Bee, Deerclops, and Queen Slime. My life could have been so much easier if I just never remembered. Yet here I am putting a pause on my Plantera plans to tie up the loose ends. Figuring I'll probably be strong enough by this point, I try and just tank my way through the Queen Bee fight, though clearly that plan has no real wings. A reality of this world I probably should have picked up on by now. Yet instead, I try and just bullcrap my way through it in ever more complicated ways, such as abusing my spawn point since the queen can't naturally despawn. But honey, nothing works, except for the Medusa trap, as long as I don't royally screw it up. A seemingly impossible task, as A, I'm kinda stupid, and B, Hive succumbed to laziness as well, opting to fight the enraged Queen Bee rather than build a new trap in the jungle. It's immensely embarrassing that even future me is having such a hard time here, but despite the difficulty, Queen Bee is eventually defeated. Alright, I'm done, and it's time to take on the Deerclops, who, surprise surprise, is still incredibly easy, even in legendary mode. At least once I remember to actually turn on the boulders, that is. Though I'm sure the post-mech armor is contributing at least a little bit to the simplicity, and so the Deerclops as well has been defeated. Meaning that only a dozen hours into hard mode, pre-hard mode has officially been bested. Though I still need to take down another royal in order to be caught up. Thankfully to that point, with the Plantera tunnel already mined out and filled to the brim with doors, there's really not much work to do aside from quickly changing the jungle end into the Hallow as well, allowing me to summon Her Majesty for a lovely stroll through the jungle. Pretty much all of her attacks phase 1 are fully neutralized by the doors, except for her body slam. Attempt 2 gets me into her second phase, and everything is terrible. She's just way too fast for me to outrun on normal ground. Hence, the thousands of asphalt. And to hopefully give a bit of perspective, upon using all 2,347 blocks, I was only able to replace the floor up to here. I really wasn't kidding when I said mining this thing out took forever. But back at it, I easily make it to phase 2 once again, immediately turning around to stay in the ass zone. We continue our now sprint back in the other direction, and my oh my does the asphalt change everything. Though it is still very dangerous, with me now entering entering the jungle barely alive. I somehow survived the second turnaround and a straight gimmick, only to be killed by a literal blue slime. Damn it, so close. Unlike the next two attempts, which both end prematurely thanks to circumstances completely outside of my control. This should very much be an easy fight at this point, but I guess the game itself just feels like messing with me now. Finally though, on attempt who gives a darn, my luck finally turns around. Kind of. With my Magiluminescence and Asphalt working together, the Flightless Queen poses genuinely no threat. Yet as I reach the far end of the tunnel, I notice something a bit odd. Out of seemingly nowhere, for the first time this playthrough, I hit the game's cap. My boulders disappear and inform me that the max projectile limit of 1,000 has been reached, meaning that throughout this tunnel, there's just 1,000 boulders rolling around. And as we'll surely see more of a bit further down the line, whenever that limit of 1,000 projectiles is met, it causes mass amounts of already spawned boulders to disappear, potentially causing catastrophic trap malfunctions. Thankfully, the short loss of damage here isn't too concerning, and soon enough, the Queen Slime has been defeated. So for realsies this time, Plantera, you're next. Prepare yourself to receive the unstoppable wrath of my balls. Remember, turtles? Because I just did. I'm starting to think that this challenge is physically destroying my brain cells, man. Great Scott. I craft up the new armor, better late than never, and immediately destroy the sanctity of this entire challenge by killing an enemy with my thorns. It sucks that tortoise armor comes hand in hand with such a set bonus, but honestly, there ain't no way in hell I'm not gonna use it. It really shouldn't affect anything during boss fights, speak of the devil, so while unfortunate, who cares? Plantera surely doesn't. In fact, she doesn't even care enough to use the tunnels the way she's supposed to. Half the time she isn't taking any damage, and during the other half, I'm also taking major hits. Her non-stop seeds end off the fight pretty quick, and that's the non-enraged Plantera. But hey, at least the tunnel wasn't completely a waste of time. Immediately pivoting away from the useless tunnel plan, I fall back onto the design I used during the previous two playthroughs. It's a pretty basic design, but should get the job done. The idea is that I can just ride a minecart in circles around her while she gets constantly whacked by boulders. Never fix what's not broken. Dang it, why is that so difficult? I of course make the arena far bigger and way more dangerous, hopefully just for Plantera and not myself. Getting the wiring done is a chore, yet only a dozen deaths later, I awaken Plantera and get to railing. As expected, the idea does work. I've literally done this exact same thing before. The thorns she's constantly spawning just aren't giving me much confidence. And there's of course also the jungle mimic. Look, all I'm saying is that if somebody has to tear my arms off, it better at least be a sexy plant. I don't think that's that crazy of a concept. She awakens again, and slowly but surely, the mimicless trap does what it was made to do. Still plenty alive, Plantera enters phase 2 and kills me within 16 seconds. Like, the sheer amount of tentacles, something I'd normally be really, well, this time are very unpleasant, especially her clawed appendages, so I expand my tunnel to hopefully get her grippers away from me. Shot number 3 has a rocky start, or an unrocky start rather, continuing on once phase 2 hits. Turns out that by expanding the perimeter, I only made the problem worse. That, combined with randomly getting yeeted off the track, is enough to do me in. Wait a second. Do me in. That's it! The letters in Do Me In can be rearranged to spell O denim. Denim is jeans, and jeans are pants. I wear pants! I think this is trying to tell me something. Pants, what could it mean? That's it! Ding dong! Pants cover up your ding dong. And not just one or the other either, but both ding and dong. I need to be using ding and dong. It's all so clear now. I immediately put my plan into action by creating a way to toggle between the ding and the dong. Here's how it goes. Phase 1 is executed with minimal hitches from within the rail room. The second phase 2 hits, I fly into the tunnel, flip which boulder statues are dropping, and get on my way, Plantera not far behind. Limited to her more physical phase 2 attacks, even upon enragement, I'm kinda just safe, as long as I keep my distance and don't have to make any drastic changes in my direction thanks to the limited length of the tunnel. Oh, right. It seems I waited too long to turn around, and without asphalt beneath my feet, she very easily keeps pace. Yet even so, it's pretty clear that this plan has solid roots. I farm up some gel for asphalt, whoa, useless, and break another bulb. Pretty pink Plantera is an overall smooth ride, while gorgeous green Plantera is a far more bumpy road. Even on asphalt, I'm barely able to survive the turnaround. Yet ultimately I am, and Plantera, my darling, has been defeated. All thanks to denim. With the jungle key now in my possession, I begin the hunt for the jungle temple, which I somehow haven't found yet. It may cost me several deaths, but eventually, there it is. I am not looking forward to this. Following its outer wall leads me up to the surface of all places, then to its front door. I tentatively unlock the ancient gateway. I tentatively unlock the ancient gateway and die within seconds. I want you to try and imagine being completely surrounded by enemies, having zero methods of defending yourself, being confined to an immensely tight corridor, and hey, let's just sprinkle on a bit of blindness while we're at it. That is the jungle temple in a nutshell. It's so horrendous, and my best guess at its length so immense that after only 2 entry attempts, I decided that getting the Rod of Discord will be easier. Farming into the Hallow for potentially hours is somehow the better option here, and that scares me. I make the necessary adjustments and let the fun begin. Then immediately end only 21 minutes 14 seconds later. Damn, I'm good. I managed to not only get it in 20 minutes, but also without killing a single Chaos Elemental. The one you see here is from after I had already picked it up. Using the Rod of Discord will not only allow easy temple access, but also allow easy temple exits. We'll see why that's important in just a few minutes. For now, I move on to collecting all the post-Plantera dungeon goodies. Patiently, I sit on my dungeon farm, soon getting my hands on a black belt, tabby, and paladin's shield. In total, taking double the amount of time it took to get the rod and completely compromising the entire challenge, as many dungeon spirits did end up getting killed by my armor. Though in recompense, I offer up to you every single time they killed me, as well as throwing away all their loot. I sew together the master ninja gear, farm some tundra enemies to upgrade my shield, and spend 38 reforges on my gear, along with 36 on my shield, only to end up with the 3rd reforge I got. Who needs money anyways, right guys? Though, do feel free to drop a super thanks down below. Feeling right upgraded, I, with no real plan in mind, start mining out an area beneath the jungle temple. I may not know the exact plan yet, but I do know that it's impossible to place wire inside the temple, meaning the entire fight, by absolute necessity, has to take place outside of its walls. I add in a single platform and simply for the sake of knowledge, insert a power cell. And what on earth am I even looking at here? Everything is pitch black, fireballs are literally everywhere, and halfway through this terribly one-sided fight, I finally noticed little bro's height. My poor fella's built like... okay, never mind. I can't actually think of any comparisons right now. Sorry, guys. I guess I'm just not on top of my game today. Unlike my movement, it's honestly crazy that I'm surviving at all, but enough information got, I do let the golem kill me. There was around 1 billion things going on there, so I tackle the darkness first. It seems like the golem can extinguish torches, so by putting a non-extinguishable light source, I should be able to slip straight through the loophole. My next concern is offense. It was very difficult to see, but given his size, I should hopefully be able to just have boulders rolling on the ground level. Fingers crossed everything works. And I mean, like, kind of. The lamps are still lit, but not entirely helpful, while the boulders are technically hitting Golem, just very infrequently. Clearly, this isn't gonna cut it, making the battle once again solely reconnaissance. It tragically ends, and the exact same issues are still at large. For visibility, gem spark walls should provide the much needed contrast before foreground and background objects. For damage, a tiny block on the ground should create a sort of boulder fountain. The GetFixedBoi exclusive mini boulders do unfortunately do half the damage as their older siblings, but as long as the stream of numbers is constant, I'm hoping it won't matter. I resummon the blockhead, and wow, the gem spark walls are doing a great job at making the fight actually followable, revealing, much to my chagrin, that the fountain is a bust. It takes 2 full minutes just to drop the golem down at 2k health. I ain't no mathematician, but something tells me this ain't gonna cut it. But with no idea how to raise the boulders up without also raising little G up with them, I spawn him in just to see what happens. I dodge, weave, and flip around like a gymnast until 12 minutes later, hand 1 gets taken out, followed by fist 2 a couple of minutes after that on my thorns. It really shouldn't affect anything during boss fights. I, for the third time, continue simply to gain a bit of knowledge, and holy hell do things go south very quickly. I'm able to get the golem into a second phase, but for the first time, unintentionally, he's able to best me. This might end up being far worse than I originally envisioned. In a normal playthrough, you'd maybe have to survive this hell for like 45 seconds max, but when your DPS is less so in the thousands and more akin to 30, no, I'm not kidding, I did the math, the projectile spam becomes unmanageable, pinning priority number 1 to fixing the damage. First off, I lower the entire floor by a couple of blocks to give the boulders some airtime, then simply just double the amount of statues entirely, making all of this into a death machine. That, alongside the center fountain, seems to do the trick. In a mere 16 seconds, I've already dealt 2 big ones worth of damage, evening out to a whopping 125 damage per second. A massive victory. Yet in the back of my mind, as I dodge and evade, I can't help but feel completely hopeless. Not so much about the golem fight, but for the final fight. For ever since the beginning of this world, a single number has remained ever ringing in my mind. 369,750. That's the number that has me petrified, and seems to only grow in magnitude with every boss I face, even as I'm making good headway destroying the golem's hands. For 369,750 is the amount of health the Moonlord will have. And when at the point of being overjoyed just for hitting 125 DPS, that number is terrifying. The golem's core soon follows after his fists, but lost in my fears, I enter phase 2 already low, and it's over. Attempting to remain calm, I make my usual adjustments. Platform goes up, giant pool of honey gets put directly above my head. You know, just normal things like that. The raised platform is to avoid this jumpy fella, and the honey is to slow down all of the fireballs, giving me plenty of time to dodge, along with keeping them out of my way for longer. All around super helpful stuff. The golem arrives, and the hand stage is pretty survivable by this point. So bing bop bip, it's time to actually lock in now. Though the golem can still reach me even with the raised up platform, making it super tough to find even a smidgen of safety. The only saving grace here being that the phase starts off pretty tame, giving me just enough wiggle room to experiment and figure out a plan. Now, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm pretty damn good at doing that exact thing. I honestly think that's the entire reason I keep doing these stupid ass challenges. Sure, fighting out in the open is fun, but throw me into a tiny box, cut my damage down by like 90%, then tell me to somehow win, and you'll have me acting like a toddler with the 3-month-old dust and grime covered sucker they found under the living room couch. Cause I love that shit. Sure, it might be absolutely disgusting on the surface, but for the deliciousness that lies underneath, I simply cannot help myself. And so, with the grin of a lifetime upon my face, I find the pattern, the rhythm, the solution. Utter chaos fills every inch of my vision, and while I do still fear that all of this will amount to one massive failure, for right now, I feel electric, and the golem has been defeated. Now, if only that sweetness could last forever. The Duke is, and always has been, one of the scariest bosses for challenge runs. No matter what it might be, he always makes my life difficult. And oh boy, is this time no different. Boulders need blocks to roll on. I need open space to avoid the most aggressive boss in the game. The Duke is quite small, tending to stay up close and personal, and my final point, boulders also hurt me, so no matter how many different orientations I try, it can simply never work. I only got away with it in classic mode because the Duke is way slower, doesn't have a third phase, and only dealt 30 damage at a time. Wow, do I miss that. And even then, I still had to use teleporters. RIP Sport, by the way, I still think about you more than you could ever know. And in Master Mode, it gets even worse. I fish up the Duke and only use the teleporters when I really need to, namely his entire second and third phases. Clearly, it's time to cash in my second teleporter token, along with completely rethink how the actual trap works, with my #1 priority being to maintain the integrity and a challenge of the fight. Unlike Master Mode me, I get to prototyping right away, and it's kind of scary using a token here, leaving nothing for the Empress. But after some hefty trial and error, here it is. My immensely complicated, not to scale, master plan, allowing for full quad-directional movement while still being safe from any and all boulders. While I am super proud of this design, it very much takes forever to build. And I don't even want to talk about the wiring, though with the Alpha Arena completed, I net a few worms and the Duke has arrived. And holy, it actually works. Like, actually really well, too. I completely forgot about the Sharknadoes during planning, but a decent size increase should get the job done. So that's what I do, along with try to uncrimsonify the ocean, earning blood jellies a spot on my screw you, I hope you die horrifically list, and get to work on the boulder droppers, which are above everything else since in order to use rollers, I'd have to fully fill the arena with blocks, leaving massive areas completely devoid of boulders, hence the droppers. Though clearly I need to up the boulder count, and I guess we're just going for it anyways. As expected, the damage is pretty much non-existent. The extra space definitely does help with survival, however, so that's a win. And feeling ballsy all of a sudden, I jump straight to making wildly impactful changes, fully removing the safety boxes for my damage's sake. Then despite my unfathomable laziness, after only a few more unnecessary tests, I double the amount of boulder statues. It's definitely not perfect, but it's also definitely not enough. It takes 10 full minutes of this just to see a glimpse of Phase 2. So now not only is this fight insufferably lengthy, it can also be ended with but a few microscopic mistakes. What a truly great duo. And so, only 2 hours, a dozen or so deaths, and unyieldy amounts of wire later, I've doubled down on doubling the boulder count. This better be enough, man. I don't know if I can take any more wiring right now. He awakens, and I've somehow managed to capture a zombie, giving it the right of a lifetime, or more accurately, the right of an after-lifetime, before he kills me for such a depressing attempt at comedy. I had no idea that was even a thing that could happen, so let's just be glad it never does again. I resummon Little D Fish Run, and this time it only takes 6 minutes to hit Phase 2. Still entirely exhausting, sure, but hey, 4 minutes off is 4 minutes off. This phase is definitely more punishing, but locked in out of my mind, it soon comes to a close. Oh boy, here goes nothing. Like, literally nothing. I make it about 15 seconds in before dying. I really thought I'd be able to wing that for some reason. The next attempt is lost to the golem problem. I ain't no mathematician, but something tells me this ain't gonna cut it. And the 2 after that, I can't even seem to die to the boss anymore. This challenge is so cooked, it somehow turned zombies into my biggest post-golem threat. Practically begging for no post-mortem interruptions at this point, I toss in my line, and the Duke takes the bait. Phase 1 is a cinch with how much practice I have unwillingly endured, and Phase 2 certainly is far more deadly, but with no zombie in sight, thanks sport, I am once again here to retake the final test, where I have to play it nearly perfect in every facet, despite having my brain scooped from my skull over the past 10 minutes. Rapid fire clicking for that long is not easy, but there's a very simple pattern here. 1 dash, teleport, 2 dashes, teleport, 3 dashes, reset. All I have to do is follow it to a T. And I did it! Or at least I thought I had done it. So I just sit there. What's a few hits gonna do anyways? And the Duke Fish Run has been defeated. Senex, have mercy on my soul. I did not deserve the victory there. I am feeling way too confident right about now. Warning, the following chapter is greatly condensed down and jumps from thing to thing very quickly. This is because playing it sucked balls and took forever. It's pretty surreal to me that I'm mining out the Empress Arena. I've spent so much time just dreaming about making it this far that actually being here is kinda strange. I finish mining out the arena and throw together a quick test in my lab. The idea is that the Empress does everything in a very followable and repeating pattern. Sundance, dash, rainbow, bolts, dash, lances, dash, rainbow, bolts, dash, and so on for all of phase 1. For the everlasting rainbow and prismatic bolt attacks, I can easily outrun them in a small tunnel with boulders on top, hopefully dealing damage. For the Sundance and ethereal lances, I really need to be in an open area, so despite its jankiness, by having multiple boulder dropping pillars, I can temporarily block off one while maintaining the stream of death everywhere else. It may have taken hundreds of actuators, a touch of confusing logic gate magic, and a more than reasonable amount of boulders to complete, but presenting EDM V1, which I just completely ignore my entire first attempt for some reason. No worries though, I was hoping to learn nothing and then die for no reason, so mission accomplished. Because when I actually make use of the thing, it turns out to be nothing but a massive waste of my time. Here are all of the ways I screwed myself over with this thing, followed by my shallow attempts to rectify them. Shortcoming number 1, and the single biggest issue existing in this post-Plantera world, damage. And it's only seeming to get worse, as the average DPS for this fight rested somewhere around 16. She's simply way too erratic. She's way too erratic. And cutting off the damage for huge sections of the fight is just a terrible idea. So I optimized the way that boulders drop, add in more boulders, rewire all of them again, and again, give the right side a lever-activated boulder wave, add statues, remove statues, change layouts, everything that had even a chance of increasing the damage. And that's only the first issue. Stupid-ass problem number 2, survival. Surprise, surprise, fighting the legendary mode Empress inside a tiny tunnel is kinda difficult, which given my experience in this extremely niche field is saying a lot. It's generally not too bad, but I mean just look at the damage here. Anytime I'm even close to being at half during this fight means I'm technically one-hittable. Changing the arena to being more open would certainly help, but would also directly add it to the first problem. So catastrophic flaw number 3, hubris. I really wanted to make a sick, completely over-engineered masterpiece to take out the Empress with, and I was 100% confident that I could pull it off too. I wanted that outcome so bad that I worked tirelessly to maintain the faux brilliance I was trying to put on. And while I could list every questionable design choice, every unfortunate shortcoming, and every unthoughtful addition, maybe let's just take a peek at where all of that effort led me. It has been well over 8 hours since my first Empress attempt. 8 full hours of testing, dying, rebuilding, mining, farming, killing, waiting, failing. All of that work just to see an ounce of progress. And to be completely transparent with you, no, this is serious. I gave up. I just completely gave up on the challenge. At this point, I had died over 700 times, but in my mind at the time, that equated more closely to failing 700 times. With each death, I just felt more and more defeated, and I knew that things were only going to get worse from here. Why continue to get beat down when the light at the end of the tunnel is just more hardship? So I quit. For months. Until one fateful day when my passion simply never returned. I truly cannot believe this is the analogy I'm doubling down on, but that nasty yet delicious lollipop I've been enjoying for the past 3 years had completely whittled away, leaving just the soggy white stick behind to remind me of the good times, of the bad times. And slowly, very slowly, as I continuously checked to see if the metaphorical floor sucker I had loved for so long would magically come back, I began to understand that no, it would not. But I also slowly realized that it's not the only thing I like. I also love pistachios and Jell-O and Diet Dr. Pepper, for crying out loud. I really love Diet Dr. Pepper. And just because I don't have that same old sucker I found 3 years ago doesn't mean I have to not enjoy everything else I love. And so, one fateful day, instead of playing for sweetness, I re-enter my world for the first time in months for everything else I love about it. Even though the fire that drove me for so long had been extinguished, even though the thing I'd spent so much time on was no longer my bread and butter, even though another confusing mixed metaphor, I'm back. Because it doesn't matter how many times I get ruthlessly pummeled into the ground or make a stupid time-wasting mistake. It doesn't matter because I know why I'm doing it now. And I want to look like a total badass to random strangers on the internet. So how's about I shut my trap and let's do this thing. It takes me an attempt to get back into the flow of things, but I've immediately got some new ideas. With the projectile limit rearing its head very aggressively during phase 2, I'm able to cut the boulder count down by 2/3 while still dealing the same amount of damage, as the limiting factor is invincibility frames, meaning I can now add even more statues without worrying about the game's limit. It cost me another stack of shimmered furnaces to get done, which amazingly he does not screw up this time. Finally, and the biggest change I make, is completely scrapping the entire previous setup in favor of returning to the classics. Past me, take it away. First, using Fiona, you need to slow down time, then changing characters back to Shrek. Whoa, not that past me, Wow, that was terrible. By using enough actuators and levers to empty my wallet, I can have the advantages of using platforms for vertical wiggle room while maintaining the massive speed boost provided by asphalt. Very well said and very well made. After all, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I pretty much just copy paste that design into the new world, catch a prismatic lacewing, and since boulders for some reason have a soft spot for this specific insect, kill it with my pickaxe, awakening the Empress of Light. Immediately, it's clear that the damage is way better, averaging out to around 145 DPS. But without the large openings at either end, I'm forced to essentially relearn the fight. I survive for a while, but with how long I have to play perfectly, I have failed yet again. What, did you think I would just immediately win after giving my big pep talk? The Empress herself does unruly amounts of damage, though thankfully I'm pretty much built different and already feel decently confident in phase 1. But the second she goes feral, all bets are off. It's like a war zone out there, man. Random pride beams are flying all over the place and nothing makes a lick of sense. I bite the dust yet again after PBing, only to jump straight back into it. Again, it's utter madness. I swear the only reason I'm surviving at all is because of Master Ninja Gear. Though with every minute that passes, and trust me when I say many do, I improve. I never quite find the sacred pattern I was searching for, but I at least always have an escape plan in mind. It's exhausting and exhilarating every step of the way. And you want to know what happens? Despite it all, in spite of everything it took to get me here, how hard it was, the Empress of Light has been defeated. Well folks, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I don't think you've played Terraria before, cause it's time to take on the Cultist, the 4 Celestial Pillars, and then the Moonlord. So here I am preparing for the sure to be hundreds of deaths that will soon strike me. I think that this might have been a terrible mistake. And indeed it is, as only after remodeling the Empress Arena do I remember where the Cultists tend to spawn. I set up a teleporter for easy access to the dungeon and get to work on the correctly located arena, which is about as simple as these things come. The building process makes me want to commit horrible crimes, as it's in the corruption, and I somehow die to not one of my own boulders. It is absolutely wild that that can still happen this late into the game, but I wire everything up, add in my patent-pending boulder stops, and don't summon the lunatic cultist, for it's time to figure out how on earth I'm gonna be beating the Moonlord, as to which I have no idea. Legendary mode Moonlord is likely to be a completely different beast, so after a much deliberation, I have decided to forego an entire attempt in the pursuit of knowledge. Sure, it may have taken multiple hours, 17,000 walls, and 1 accidental torch god fight, but the Moonlord testing facility has been completed, and should give me all the necessary information information to devise a strategy, meaning it's time to get the final ball rolling, pun intended, by summoning the lunatic cultist. With the sheer amount of boulders I've got going, the only threat phase 1 is the phantasmal dragons, who, no matter what I do, will always spawn, because, you know, boulders and all. I don't have a solid idea on how to dodge them yet, so rely solely on the insane amount of damage my boulders deal to worm-like enemies, passing me through to the cultist's second phase, where needless to say a few things other than just the dragons become an issue. I expanded the amount of boulders to fill in the previously present gaps and decided to just send it. It's crazy seeing how much a single attempt can accomplish, as I've already got a reliable method of avoiding the scaled specters entirely. A touch of running here and a little jump there is genuinely all it takes. But just as I'm starting to feel like this is the one, the game steps in to stop me. In the notes I took about this fight, I poetically wrote, "I literally hate this game, no cap." And I just find that really touching. The loser wakes up again, and the only real threat the entire fight are the star bits he seems to send out like every 6 seconds. And great Scott, do they hurt. There are of course a handful of close calls, but before I can even begin to comprehend the horrors I'm about to bring upon myself, the lunatic cultist has been defeated. While ML is definitely the boss I have been more afraid of than any other, the 4 pillars and their accompanying cast of characters is the event I have feared above all else. Aside from all those supposed drug parties I was promised would plague my high school selves every waking moment. And while those never came true, the same, highly unfortunately so, cannot be said about the Celestial Invasion. Cause this is your brain on drugs, and this is your brain fighting the Celestial Pillars in Terraria, using only boulders. And also in legendary mode GetFixedBoi. Going for first worst, I try to set up a teleporter to shorten the run back, and there it is, the very first celestial death. Knowing I don't stand a chance building the traps actually inside the pillars, I go for putting them just outside their reach. Then once the trap has been fully laid, all I have to do is move over a few blocks and get to killing. Quick fun fact for ya, I just endured over 100 deaths, only to have to do it another 3 times. But hey, at least the worst pillar is already out of the way, right? Now, I originally wrote an entire, like, 3-page crash out concerning exclusively the events that took place in the Stardust pillar, but instead of doing that, yeah, no, I'm definitely still doing it. This thing broke me. Enraging event number 1, getting to the pillar, which is a problem since it's located in the heart of my least favorite biome, the Corrupt Desert, to which I am killed by 8 times just setting up the teleporter. Snag number 2, building the trap. The brilliance in building outside the pillar's range is that it's supposed to allow me to work in peace. Corrupt Desert. 50 minutes after starting the trek upwards, the trap is finally built and ready to go. Numero trace, Weavers. These absolute vermin suck balls so hard they deserve an entire slot on the list dedicated exclusively to them. You know what? Screw it, they deserve an entirely separate list. Point B, they can go through blocks. Point I, they are way too fast to reliably hit. Point T, even if I could hit them, they have an unreasonable amount of health for what they are. Point C, they spawn so damn frequently, it's unbelievable. Point H, if their first hit doesn't kill me, their tail certainly will. Put all of that loveliness together, and you've got a recipe for inducing pure, unadulterated rage. Now, this certainly isn't the last thing that's going on my grievances list, but the game does show me a glimpse of mercy in the form of an isolated star cell, who I can repeatedly kill, let regenerate, then kill again, in order to break the pillar's shield. I take in the final moments of peace, and let's get back to listing things, shall we? Number 4, getting to the pillar, part 2. I don't really think I need to explain this one, do I? Lucky number 5, and the very thing that broke through my fury by pushing me into lunacy. Having fought every step of the way to get here, I somehow, through countless deaths, that's how, managed to get the boulders rolling, meaning it's finally over. I don't have to do anything else. I can simply sit back at base and wait for the message. But I don't. do that. Instead, I decide to make one quick, one harmless, one final change to increase the damage. A few blocks get placed, and I hope you can sympathize at least a little bit more with my crash out now. I agonizingly make my way up to the surface, where the surprisingly mobile pillar now rests, reset everything up, and don't place blocks underneath it this time, watching in deranged glee as the ancient obelisk receives its divine punishment. Wow, that was a lot, so I'm just gonna kinda skim over the remaining pillars for the sake of time. The vortex invasion is the kindest of them all, since none of the enemies are able to go through blocks. But with only solar still standing in my way, it hits me where I now find myself. Here at the end of it all, a single step away from facing my doom. I hesitantly engage in battle against the sun's kin, and with Korites as my only threat, the shield soon shatters. Then the pillar itself has fallen. Impending doom approaches. His first arrival may only be as a test, but I desperately need this to go well. It's taken everything and more still just to invoke his arrival, and I don't know what I would do if it was all for naught. If it truly would be impossible, like I swore was the case merely a year ago. Yet here I am, waiting in silence as the world itself quakes beneath my very feet, looking for nothing than to answer that original question. Do I have what it takes? And from within a burst of blinding light, and he's invisible. They made him completely invisible. I will not be given the honor of fighting my opponent face to face. They took that from me as one last act of humiliation. I will see nothing, learn nothing, and then die. Oh, never mind, guys. False alarm. He's just hidden behind the walls. Sure, it may have taken multiple hours, 17,000 walls, and one accidental torch god fight, but the Moonlord testing facility has been completed, and should give me all the necessary information to devise a strategy. And that, my friends, is their final act of humiliation. Just letting me do it to myself. Reaching BHQ, I desperately turn on the grid overlay, and with moon boulders soaring all around, half his body hidden, and the NPCs surely terrified for their lives, I'm able to survive just long enough to see his full range of attacks, soon dying in the only acceptable way, marking the final death needed to have died to every single boulder type, as well as marking the end of the world's worst reconnaissance mission. But hey, I did at least get some measurements, so mission mostly accomplished. I return to grab the solar fragments and craft as many sigils as I can, which is 3. I get 3 attempts to kill this thing with these things. I cannot afford to hold back on this arena. I simply do not have any room to spare with such few attempts at my disposal. So I tear down the Empress arena, felt very cathartic by the way, fill the entirety of the soon-to-be Moonlord trap with echo walls, and outside the game, put together a handy chart of the Space King's dimensions. The footage made it very tricky to be accurate, but all of these points are where I need to be attacking. If you thought any of the previous traps were complicated, oh baby, you are in for a treat. Here's the plan. Throw me into a microscopic tunnel and somehow survive the constant onslaught without being able to jump or fly. Now I know that sounds completely impossible. The reason I have to limit my movement so much is to hopefully counteract the single most concerning part of the fight, moonclots. While not a major concern in normal mode, in master mode, they came insanely close to ending the entire challenge. I tried fixing it back then too, but my plan is a complete failure. The leechclots still have more than enough health when they reach the Moonlord's mouth, so that's a bust, but I don't want to just throw this attempt out the window, so I keep fighting, and fighting, and fighting, until after nearly 45 minutes of battle, I have to pause the game mid-fight out of pure exhaustion. After 43 minutes, I have done exactly 48,089 damage. Dealing damage to the Moonlord will no doubt be more complicated, but if I don't solve the clot situation, nothing else else I do will matter. As per usual, the solution is boulders, but with only one block of space to deal 400 damage, I don't know. But let's circle back on solving that, because I at least need to get some sort of groundwork laid out, which is far easier said than done. Every choice I made for this thing had to be fully thought out, then somehow realized. The boulder tunnels are 2 blocks tall to minimize wasted potential, a pain to implement with 3 block tall statues, the half block ceiling to hopefully give my boulders even a chance at destroying the moon clots. 400 damage in only 1.5 seconds is a tall order after all. The boulder stops to prevent hitting the projectile cap. All that and so much more has been fully accounted for, except for his hands, whom do indeed move around in quite a large area, but unfortunately spend most of their time dead centered on the player, aka in the one place I can't have any boulders. This was another daunting complication and even worse solution I had to deal with in master mode, so I desperately need to figure out something new. A magical way to deal damage to everything in my tunnel, except for me. But this isn't the first time I've encountered this problem. The king slime nearly killed me because I didn't have a solution to this exact hurdle. The queen bee also likes hanging out on my level, but is big enough to where it doesn't really matter. And the duke presented me with a very similar puzzle to right now, solved by only ever being in precise pre-planned locations with boulders filling in the gaps on my sides. But here, I need boulders to be directly above, below, to the right, and on my left. Basically, all I'm trying to say is that this seemingly simple problem is almost impossible to resolve, where the solution I arrive at is to have the entire hallway full of inactive blocks except for a few surrounding me at all times. Wherever I move, the walls move with me, thanks to the magical power of player sensors and, drumroll please, oh, right, I forgot I'm standing alone, talking to nobody. And this. How can one man be so undeniably handsome? And can you explain what the hell I'm even looking at? I hear you asking. Well, while I couldn't possibly answer your first question, very kind of you by the way, I also can't really answer your second one. It's a miracle I got this thing working in the first place. And okay, yeah, I do actually know how it works, but it uses player sensors, actuators, all 4 wire colors, teal pressure plates, logic gates, dart traps, and so much space optimization that it would be completely impossible to explain concisely. So let's just go over the basics. There are around 40 player sensors throughout my tunnel feeding into logic gates, then to a handful of actuators. That's what turns on all of the walls. I also have levers spread throughout, so when the Moonlord's hands get taken out, I can deactivate the boulders that could potentially hurt me, as well as make sure we aren't hitting the entity limit. It took using dart traps and projectile sensing pressure plates to even get the signal out of the trap, but everything seems to work perfectly fine despite the jank. I at last grabbed the first of 3 sigils, and feeling the immense weight behind this single button press, summon the Moonlord. Every possible outcome flashing through my mind all at once. The starting shot fires, and the Moonlord has awoken. Let the race begin. RQ gets double tapped by Death Ray 1, letting the ML take the early lead. Though with all 3 leech clots being successfully wiped from first place's tongue, a huge win for Team Quenched, the gap is steadily closing. The Rod of Discord certainly takes immensely quick reflexes and precision, but if used correctly is an invaluable tool for dodging the Moonlord's most powerful move. And Quenched advances into first place. He may not be avoiding every hit, but the Heart Rage potions and statues are doing an incredible job at maintaining his lead. And yet, we are still neck and neck here, folks, as the promising leech sweep from earlier seems to be very infrequently pulled off, with it too requiring near pinpoint precision or luck in order to execute properly, giving thousands of much needed health back to the current loser. But wait, it would seem as though RQ is leaving the Cosmic Giant in the dust, as not just one, but both of second place's hands are taken out by the boulders. It looks like all that healing has been going straight to the Moonlord's main eye. A very smart maneuver on his part, and one that is rapidly evening the race yet again. The ups, the downs, a sensational race today here, folks. And with the 2 true eyes of Cthulhu on the loose, Quenched is losing traction. The stamina required to be focusing on so many things all at once might come at too high a cost for him to maintain. The promising underdog now falls into second place, and just like that, the race is over, with the undefeated champion Moonlord as the victor. I may have lost, but there is not a single disappointed bone in my body. Surviving for as long as I did on the very first attempt is incredible, and I died in such a bullcrap way, I really can't be too upset with how I played. I am of course concerned about the swiftness at which I went from healthy to dead, though not enough to stop me from immediately summoning the Moonlord yet again. No fixes, no adjustments, just pure, unwavering bloodlust as my entire strategy. And I think I've got a pretty good grasp on the fight by now, consisting mostly of running back and forth, trying to dodge as best I can. The actual hard part comes when trying to dodge the death rays. I have to click within this tiny area in order for the teleport to go through, and a lot of the time I'm unsure about which direction the laser will be coming from, frequently resulting in me just tanking the damage. It can also be quite tricky taking out the Moonclots, as I either have to be perfectly in line with a single boulder while traveling left, or just hope I get lucky when headed right. But in general, at least before the hands get taken out, and as long as I don't make more than a single mistake in a row, it really isn't too bad, he says while one hit away from death. Surviving thanks to the statues, I live to see both of the Moonlord's hands removed yet again, and this is when things get really tough. All the extra projectiles make the back and forth strategy far less reliable, the thousands of health now drain directly into a single entity, and I forgot to turn off the center boulders. The limit has been reached, it would seem, as 1 second everything is perfectly fine, while the next sees the most important boulder tunnel entirely vacant. And there goes 3Ks of damage. As before, it genuinely is a very hard-fought battle the whole way through. But alas, 26 minutes deep, I am killed. 369,750 health is just outright unfair, adding 92,439 health over Master Mode Moonlord, or 224,750 over Classic ML. It's ludicrous. And with only one more shot at victory, I fear the worst. But I try and push that thought out of my mind. If there's one thing that could distract me during this fight, it's the unavoidable reality that if I screw this up, I will be forced to relive hours upon hours of pain fighting the pillars. Great, now I'm thinking about it. And shaking with anxiety, I shatter my final... No, stop. I shatter yet another sigil, and the deliverer of my doom has arrived. One final time. It wasn't enough. Every bit of me was so incredibly determined to make it the one, but it just wasn't enough. This loss is devastating, and yet with its weight heavy on my shoulders, I do press onwards. I never allowed myself to consider the possibility of having to come back here, yet the lunatic cultist has awoken nevertheless. I try not to let my failure get the better of me, but I'm killed by a phantasmal dragon. Then again by a clinger, then again another 7 times. Never in my life have I come so close to punching a hole in my wall. Losing this many times in a row to a boss I've, already beaten, and one whose downfall not only doesn't reward me with triumph, but instead brings down the celestial pillars was, in my opinion, not too enjoyable. So at risk of committing arson, I decide to take some time away to work on the Moonlord trap, starting by very confusedly implementing a phase system for more accurately catering to each section of the fight. Having to find a way to connect levers inside the trap to all of the boulder statues' timers took way more brain power than I possess. I do manage to get it working, however, like 50% at the time, but that's still a passing grade if you tack on another 20%. And now I get to march my sorry ass back up to the dungeon yet again, where I thankfully only die a single another time before the lunatic cultist has been taken down again and the pillars come for seconds. But I played way smarter this time, setting up the traps in such a way that lets me use nothing but a nail file, my second monitor, subtle flex there, and the A key to wipe out all of the required enemies. All in all, I only die like a million times, try on maybe like 6 occasions, and end up huddled in my closet devoid of all happiness just once. Not too bad if you ask me. Not too bad at all. I set up my boulder statues in front of the final pillar and wait. I don't know how many attempts I'll end up getting, but I do know that I need to make every single one count. Impending doom approaches, and I am beyond ready for this to be over. He awakens, and I die in under a minute. By far my worst attempt yet, but there is hope to be found elsewhere in the amount of fragments now in my possession. Enough to craft 5 more sigils. 5 should be enough. I just need to make sure that I'm improving. I awaken the Moonlord and am killed yet again, barely into the fight. I dropped all the way from 600 health to dead within a second. I truthfully don't at all understand how that's physically possible with immunity frames, or what I possibly could have done to avoid something like that happening in the first place. But it's perfectly fine, I've still got 4 more attempts. So here we go again. Please, let it be fine. He arrives, and the only thing I need to be thinking about is the right now. I slide back into my rhythm, and a minute passes. Then 2, 3, 4, and the arena is malfunctioning, yet I don't notice. My focus is set entirely upon the Moonlord, isolated. His first hand has fallen, now his second. The arena seems to be falling apart all around me. Boulders starting and stopping of their own accord, paying no mind to the carefully designed blueprints. Yet again, I simply do not notice. Run right, run left, dodge the laser, kill the leeches, run, run, run. I fall to the very thing I was sure was on my side, to the boulders that were supposed to be turned off. I focused way too much on bringing him down, when in reality, everything has to be perfect. Yet I just don't know if I can focus on dodging every attack, perfectly executing my teleports, switching on and off a broken mechanism, keeping up on all my potions, watching over our health bars, and not letting the pressure get to me all at the same time. It's immensely overstimulating, and it just keeps on going. This was a 15-minute attempt. 15 minutes were spent getting nowhere but closer to defeat. So I take a breather, using the time to scrounge around the underground in search of some damn wire, because I am that bloody broke. I mean, just tell me this isn't the saddest endgame piggy bank you have ever seen. I attempt to use the scavenged wire to fix up the phase switching, but I straight up think the game must be glitching with how much is going on, because my attempts at fixing it are entirely unsuccessful, to the point where I couldn't even find the source of the problem. The wiring looks perfectly sound after double and triple checking everything, so there's just no way this is on me. I don't understand. But since I can't seem to find a permanent solution, I slap on a band-aid instead, adding in a few gem spark blocks that should more clearly indicate what phase of the trap is currently active. But more importantly than that, I also add in 2 Bast statues, because if there's one thing that'll propel me straight to victory, it's no doubt going to be that extra 5 whole defense they provide. I grab yet another sigil, leaving only 2 behind, and just send it, trying my best to take in every little detail. Focusing too much on one thing cost me everything last time, and I do not intend to make that mistake again. If I want to stand a chance, I have to be better than I can be. Give every step all of the power I have to offer, and more. Perfect execution on every front. My systems may be falling apart, but I'm the only one here to pick up the pieces. Hand 1 gone, eye 2 removed, and I'm still fighting tooth and nail to survive. But the fight just keeps on going, seeing the traveling merchant arrive, then depart without so much as a crumb of progress, until at last, the final eye is ripped from its socket, the Moonlord's core shattering into exposure. And that's it. This one thing, this singular entity, this last health bar, is the only thing at keeping this 3-year journey from ending. And I am deeply aware of that fact. It tears at my concentration, vying for my attention, trying to pull me down and keep me under. The pressure I now face seems insurmountable. This is it. The true final test of the Moonlord, of this challenge, of me. All that remains is nothing but a matter of time and a question of whether I have what it takes. And finally, after facing countless challenges, dozens of failures, and the greatest of victories, the challenge I've spent nearly 70 hours on, fought every boss on, overcome infinite obstacles on, has been defeated. I had what it took.